My name is Mara. I'm on a mission to peel away the clutter from my house and from my life. Right now, I'm in the living room and I am working on this white cart. Now, this cart has been holding my tarot and oracle collection, but the decks are really too heavy for this plastic cart, so it became the leaning tower of tarot, and I really need for that not to be the case. I've decided on moving the cards into a different room, and I'm going to use this gray cart that you can kind of see in the foreground. And to be honest, I'm using this cart in part because I'm still a little bit anxious after clearing out all of this space, and I want something that I can clutter up a little if I want to. I know that sounds weird, but just stuff that I want to have close by, but I'll be able to wheel it out if I want to. I don't know if I'm going to keep this around forever, but I would like to have it for now just to help with my anxiety. And I'm going to answer a couple of frequently asked questions. A few of you, okay, more than a few of you, have asked what inspired me to start this decluttering process. And the other question is, why do I wear a mask? I'm going to give a bunch of background to provide some context so you can understand how I reached the point that I decided I've got to declutter all of this stuff. So let's go back to the beginning. I've always loved stuff. I grew up in a family with loving parents who were depression babies. They grew up during the Great Depression, and so they valued things that they worked hard to get. They were pretty frugal. They made use of the things that they had, and I don't really remember things being let go of very easily, but on the other hand, like they didn't buy a lot of excess stuff. The house would get cluttered, but not really to the extent that mine did. I definitely took it to excess. And I think that's because my parents had 6 kids, and I grew up seeing lots of people in my area who just had more stuff and what I thought was cooler stuff than I had. Now, I did not need for anything. I had clothes, I had food, I had toys, I had gifts, I received school supplies. But when there are 8 people in the family and your breadwinner is a teacher, you don't have a lot of money for extras. Any gifts that I received, I treasured dearly, and but I wanted stuff. I wanted more stuff than I had, and that became a theme that continued throughout my life. So, about the gifts, I have a vivid memory from childhood where I took a book to a used bookstore that was buying books. I don't know how old I was, but probably around 10. So, I sold this book, and when I went home, I just had so much regret that I had let it go. I felt like I had betrayed the person who gave me the gift, and I wanted it back. So I convinced someone to take me over the next day or a couple of days later, and I could not find the book. I was crushed, absolutely crushed. I have such a vivid memory of this feeling, and it's funny because I don't remember the name of the book. I don't remember what the book was about. But I remember the person who gave it to me and how devastated I felt when I couldn't get it back. So, as you can imagine, this led me to be even more reluctant to let things go. I had a hard time letting go of things before, but after this, I was like, how can I ever let things go? Because if I take it back, I'm going to regret it. And what do I do? What do I do then? Things were never just things. They were tangible connections to loved ones. They were possibilities, things that I could create or do down the road. But the problem was they piled up over time, and I struggled when I tried to organize. I didn't know at the time that I had ADD, but what I knew was that when I tried to organize stuff, my brain like froze. And I don't know, like my head would get fuzzy and I would just be very quickly overwhelmed. It was so hard. And it would take so long that I would just give up. I would give up. And later on, I began scrapbooking. This is a hobby that I love. I don't regret it. It's a great creative outlet, but it also fed into my desire to hang on to things because you've got to save those movie tickets, right? You've got to save those concert tickets, the photos, etc. And that continued. So I grew up, I went to college. I remember I had a friend that we would go on shopping dates with, and one time we were sitting down and I told her I love to be surrounded by my purchases. And so she would sit on one couch and I would sit on the other, and we would spread out the little things that we bought. So that's it. That's a vivid memory and a fun one. But I think it really tells you, it gives you some insight into how I saw things and still continue to see things. All right. Time passed. I accumulated more and more. After college, I moved into an apartment, and I remember I was like, I need to organize my stuff. I was selling candles or scrapbook supplies or maybe both at that time. And I went to a local fair where there were lots of different businesses and everyone was exchanging their business cards, etc. And there was this woman. Okay, hold on. Let's pause for a moment. I am going to give you a little oracle card reading. This is the cutest little deck. It's Halloween themed. It takes tropes from horror movies and turns them into little inspirational messages. So, here we go. This is the Crying Ghost, and the message is, this will pass. When I got this, I thought it was going to be just a light and fluffy deck, but it actually has some really inspirational messages. I really enjoy it. I'll put a link in the comments. See, I still love my stuff. How many years later? Okay, but anyway, back to this woman. This poor woman. Y'all. So she came over to do a free consultation. And I was like, this is great. I am going to get all my stuff organized. This poor woman, y'all. So she comes over and she starts saying, okay, so what are you willing to let go of? And, she had these boxes, and I was like, why is she asking me this? Like, what the hell? I could not understand what was going on. I was like, she is an organizer. Is she not supposed to help me understand and organize what I had? As you might imagine, nothing left the house. Nothing got organized. I was not ready. And my main takeaway from this was, okay, she obviously needs to get better at organizing. I feel so bad about that. But anyway, I was like, she needs to get better at it, and so she can help people. And I just need a bigger house. I just need a bigger house. I need more room. So I bought a house. I was in the apartment was like 900 square foot, and it was a decent size. I moved to a house and it had like 1,600 square feet, and I was like, okay, this is going to be amazing. This is going to be great. So I buy this. It's my first house. It's going to be amazing. And it was, but the stuff just came with me. And I also bought more stuff because I had more space and I needed more stuff for my house. Or maybe I just wanted it. I don't know. So I had my stuff, I was surrounded by my stuff, and I was in that house for 7 or 8 years. And one day I suddenly had this epiphany that my pile problem wasn't a space issue. It was me. It was me. And I sat with that for a while, probably longer than it should have. But I mean, I had to accept that because no one else lived in that house. It was just me. So I attempted to, you know, organize stuff but I didn't know how to fix it. I've made attempts to organize over the years, but I always became overwhelmed. I lived in that house for 15 years and was not able to park my car in the garage for most of those years. There may have been a few months where I was able to park it in the garage, but otherwise, that garage was simply a container for boxes of doom. And I've had boxes of doom from house to house. There are probably still some boxes that I moved to my apartment that never got unpacked and are still in boxes today. Anyway, 5 years ago, I decided I needed a one-level house. I was having more issues with asthma. Going up and down 2 flights of stairs to do laundry was not something that was great. My knees were acting up, etc. So I moved. I found a house that I loved, and I do love this house. But it's about 1,200 square feet, so it's 400 square feet smaller than the other house. I moved my stuff in, and my stuff moved with me. And boxes were piled up in every single room. There were more boxes that were piled on the back patio because there wasn't even enough room in the house for all of the boxes. That was 5 years ago. I've opened some of those boxes. Some have stayed unopened. Oh gosh. And every year since that move, I've lived in a house with piles. And as each year passed, I thought, I need to get rid of these piles. I needed to get rid of these piles. And something that's kind of common in scrapbooking is to have a word for the year. You would pick a word of the year and focus on centering your life around that word. And this is not just for scrapbookers, but that's how I got into doing it. And I would choose a word like free or release. But I didn't release or free any of my stuff. I just didn't know where to start. I was like, where do I start? And I would get stuck. And that brings us to last year. Last year, around this time, I went to the hospital for what I thought was COVID, but it ended up being sepsis. And I was in the hospital for 2.5 weeks. It took a lot out of me. I survived, but it changed my life in a lot of ways. I was released from the hospital, came home, was just lying around, recovering for months. I didn't know if I was going to have a normal life again, and I didn't know what that life would look like. So time passed and I was recovering, but I was pretty depressed. Now, depression is nothing new to me. I've had that diagnosed since I was around 16 or 17. It's something that I've had throughout my life. But this was different. I just didn't know how to rebuild my life. I was starting to feel a little better physically, but I still got very drained easily. And I remember hearing this song by Ateez. It's a K-pop group, and the song is called New World. In the first few seconds of the song, there's a background vocal, and the words of that vocal say, "This new world, it's up to you." And that hit me hard. Like, okay, I'm gonna have to rebuild my life after sepsis, and it's up to me what it's gonna look like. And then I remember sitting on my couch in my usual spot, thinking to myself, like I did every single year, that my house is a mess and I need to do something about it. And something inside me was like, you have said that every single year since you've been in this house. You realized before that the mess was you, and you are going to be the one who is going to clean it up. And I was just like, whoa, okay, okay. All right, so I'm thinking about this. It's all a seed. All of these things are little seeds, and in some cases it took years, but they were finally starting to sprout just a little bit. So I'm giving this thought, and I'm like, all right, I need to figure out how I'm going to do this. And then one day I'm driving home, and I turn onto my street, and I strongly had this feeling, you should start a decluttering channel on YouTube. And my first thought was, this is hysterical. Like, how can I do this? How can I do this? It felt like being someone who has no knowledge of cars at all, starting a channel about being a mechanic. But the idea wouldn't go away. So I was like, okay, I'm obviously supposed to start decluttering my house. I'm supposed to make a channel about it. And here we go. So that's what I did. But I still felt and still feel shame about my house and the state that it has been in. It's improving, but I felt like I needed to just preserve my identity a little bit. People who know me are going to recognize me, but I just decided I was going to wear a mask. And at some point, I know I'm going to take off the mask. I knew that when I started. I'm going to feel secure and able to share like all of my face. But I have to admit, it's not going to be until after the Nightmare Kitchen. I can't promise when I'll leave the mask off, but I know it's going to come off at some point. And that's the main reason. It also does help with dust, though. I mean, in the past, when I've tried to declutter or clean, I end up coughing and wheezing for hours afterward. And now I don't have that issue, so that helps there too. So that's my answer to those questions. And I would love to hear your getting stuff done songs so I can create a playlist that we can all just enjoy when we need to get stuff done. We'll just turn on this playlist and go for it. So please share in the comments. Also, I'm getting some help with my Nightmare Kitchen. I am so, so grateful that Bonnie over at A Beautiful Mess, and I will link her in the description. I reached out to her and she was like, of course I'll help. It was just so, I'm just beyond grateful. I don't even have words. So anyway, we're still trying to coordinate the timing of it, but we'll do that. And thanks for watching. Bye.